If you think only the poor go hungry or struggle to make ends meet, you might want to think again. In America, it's not just the poor. The middle class is also falling into chaos. Not chaos caused by protests or natural disasters, but a crisis both material and mental. People earning over $100,000 a year still can't afford rent, have to borrow money to buy groceries, and drive over 20 miles just to find a carton of milk or a pack of diapers for their child. What has pushed the middle class, once considered the backbone of the American economy, into this downward spiral of exhaustion and instability? Is America, with all its celebrated prosperity, really still okay? Let's take a closer look at 5 cities where the middle-class dream is cracking day by day. Chances are, the names on this list will surprise you. Year 1. Phoenix, Arizona, when milk is harder to find than gold. Once considered a promised land for families seeking a fresh start, Phoenix, with its dry climate, formerly affordable housing, and rapid development, was a shining symbol of the modern American dream. Not long ago, the middle class here lived with a sense of stability. A modest house in the suburbs, an old but reliable SUV, and relaxed weekend shopping trips to Fry's or Walmart without worrying about every dollar spent. With annual incomes ranging from $70,000 to $100,000, they believed that working hard was enough to live comfortably and save for the future. Life in Phoenix used to be a source of pride. Peaceful neighborhoods, good schools, and a welcoming environment created an ideal setting for middle-class families to build a life grounded in traditional values: hard work, frugality, and investing in the next generation. Buying a home, saving for college, even early retirement. Those goals once felt within reach. But that reality has drastically changed. Phoenix is no longer a place of opportunity, but one where the middle class now struggles silently to breathe. In just 3 years, rental prices have surged by over 40%. A 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs, once a reasonable option for young families, now costs nearly $1,800 per month. Meanwhile, the median home price has passed $430,000, pushing homeownership further out of reach for working families. What's most alarming is that even those earning over $100,000 a year are struggling to afford rent. Donna Dennis, an administrative worker whose husband works in tech, shared that both of them work full-time, yet still can't find an apartment in the neighborhood they want. They've had to move farther out, sacrificing commute time and quality of life just to save a few $100s a month. Their story reflects a broader reality in Phoenix. What was once considered a solid income has become a source of constant financial pressure. And it's not just housing. Food and everyday essentials have become harder to afford and even harder to find. What used to be a routine grocery run has turned into a stressful scavenger hunt. Store shelves at Fry's and Walmart are frequently empty, especially for items like milk, rice, diapers, toilet paper, and even cold medicine. Accessing essentials, especially baby formula, has become increasingly difficult. According to the Phoenix Community Alliance, over 40% of residents report having to visit at least 3 stores to find basic groceries. Infant formulas like Enfamil and Similac can cost between $60 and $70 per container at some retailers, nearly double their average price in 2022. For many families, finding a single can of milk powder feels harder than buying gold. Their finances have become a game they can't win. Electricity this week, internet next week, food, maybe later. A seasoned accountant in Tempe shared that she regularly relies on credit cards just to buy basic groceries, even though she avoids luxury purchases, doesn't travel, and drives a decade-old car. "It feels like I'm just surviving, not actually living," she said. She also admitted to having to choose between paying a utility bill or buying dinner, decisions she never imagined she'd have to make. This constant pressure has stripped many of their sense of control. Few dare to think about the future. They're just hoping this month's bills won't be too devastating. Saving, investing, or planning for early retirement now feels like a distant fantasy. even for those who were once considered financially secure. Many are growing anxious about their children's futures and have had to postpone plans for education or health care. This situation has led to a steady erosion of trust, not just in the economy or in income, but in the very value of hard work. When someone works full-time, lives modestly, holds a degree, and still can't get by, it's only natural to start asking, does any of this effort even matter? The sense of fairness in society feels increasingly absent, and all their sacrifices seem lost in the tide of rising costs. In Phoenix, crisis didn't arrive like a storm. It came like small cracks spreading slowly, an empty pantry, a half-stocked fridge, unpaid bills, and that sinking feeling at the end of every month. This city is no longer a land of opportunity, but a place where the choices are growing narrower by the day. People must now choose between rent or food, healthcare or electricity. The stability they once counted on has turned into a fragile illusion. And if Phoenix, once a symbol of fresh starts, has fallen into this condition, how many other cities across America are already following the same path? 2. Chicago, Illinois. Supermarkets gone, groceries turned into luxury. Phoenix was only the beginning. If the city of sun and opportunity is now gasping under the weight of soaring living costs, then Chicago, the industrial heart of America, reveals an equally harsh reality. People can no longer access food the way they used to. Chicago was once a symbol of the hardworking middle class. Bustling neighborhoods like South Side and West Side were home to families who gathered around the dinner table every evening, buying fresh vegetables, meat, and milk just a few minutes' walk from their homes. Today, that image is fading. In just the past 2 years, major supermarket chains like Walmart, Aldi, and Save-A-Lot have closed numerous locations in working-class neighborhoods. According to the Chicago Tribune, at least 7 Walmart stores shut down in the city in 2023 alone. Now, residents in these areas must travel 5 to 10 miles just to find a store with fresh food at a reasonable price. For those without a car, this is nearly impossible. Many are left surviving on canned goods, instant noodles, or simply going without meals. This situation has created what's known as a food desert, a condition once thought to exist only in remote rural areas, now firmly rooted in the heart of America's third-largest city. A public school HVAC technician shared that he doesn't ask for luxuries, just the ability to buy fresh vegetables and milk from a nearby store. But with his neighborhood supermarket gone, the nearest alternative now costs him an extra $50 a month just in gas. The cost of living has also surged across the board. A middle-class family with 2 young children now needs more than $3,000 a month just to maintain a basic standard of living, excluding school fees, health care, or credit card debt. According to a 2024 report from Numbeo, the combined costs of food, rent, utilities, gas, and fuel in Chicago have risen by an average of 27% since 2021. Meanwhile, the average worker's income has only gone up about 4 to 5%. Dinners have grown smaller, medications are skipped, and financial anxiety has become the new normal. Many residents, even those still employed full-time, have started applying for food assistance for the first time in their lives. In just the first quarter of 2024, the number of applications for food support in Illinois rose nearly 15% compared to the same period the previous year, according to the Illinois Department of Human Services. Supermarket shelves in Chicago are no longer reliably stocked. Scenes of people crowding discount stores, scrambling for bags of noodles or bottles of cooking oil, have become familiar. It's not panic buying, it's anticipation of next week's price hike. A can of tomatoes now costs about the same as a specialty coffee, something unimaginable just a few years ago. The consequences go beyond hunger. A quiet health crisis is unfolding. As fresh food becomes a luxury, nutritional deficiencies are on the rise. Chronic illnesses like diabetes and high blood pressure are worsening due to poor diets and irregular medication. Many are forced to choose between paying the electric bill or buying essential medicine. choices that often result in untreated illnesses. Chicago, a city that once gave people hope that hard work would lead to a stable life, is now forcing many to question whether stability means anything anymore. And if the middle class can't even afford to eat properly in a city once known as the industrial backbone of America, what's waiting for the rest of the country? 3. Seattle, Washington. When big tech turns its back, even the well-off are struggling. If Phoenix is a story of soaring costs and food shortages, and Chicago a portrait of an urban food desert, then Seattle reflects a deeper, more complex shift. The unraveling of a tech-driven economy that once symbolized prosperity. What was once seen as a model city for growth has now become a cautionary tale for America's middle class. Known as the City of the Future, Seattle was once home to tech giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. It attracted hundreds of thousands of professionals with high-paying jobs and modern lifestyles. But within just a few short years, the city has undergone a dramatic transformation. In late 2024, the tech industry faced an unprecedented wave of layoffs. In Seattle alone, over 15,000 workers in technology and supporting services lost their jobs or had their hours cut. This didn't just affect software engineers, it spread to admin staff, front desk personnel, security workers, and logistics teams. Thousands of households that once enjoyed financial stability are now grappling with serious hardship. At the same time, the cost of living in Seattle has continued to climb at a staggering pace. According to data from Apartment List, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the city surpassed $2,300 per month, up nearly 20% from the previous year. Essential goods have also spiked in price. Eggs now cost $8 to $9 per dozen, and gas averages nearly $6 per gallon, the highest in years. Even families with dual incomes are starting to buckle under the pressure. For many, life in Seattle has turned into a difficult equation. Households that once had two steady incomes are now surviving on one, or none. A father laid off in the tech downsizing, a mother with her hours reduced at a service job, and children whose college plans are now indefinitely on hold due to financial strain. Families who once prided themselves on financial comfort now find themselves counting every dollar. To make ends meet, many residents are juggling 2 or 3 jobs, delivering packages, waiting tables, or driving for rideshare apps, just to cover rent and utilities. Still, despite working longer and harder, many come up short by the end of the month. Soaring costs are trapping people in a cycle of effort without relief, working more, but never earning enough to catch up. Shortages at local grocery stores have added another layer of stress. Residents often visit 3 or 4 different stores just to gather ingredients for a single meal. Eggs may be in stock at one shop, fresh vegetables at another, while meat might require waiting until the next delivery. This supply inconsistency has turned basic errands into time-consuming scavenger hunts, draining both energy and morale. What's worse is the growing divide between neighborhoods. In affluent parts of the city, boutique cafes buzz with customers, upscale markets stay fully stocked, and luxury EVs line the streets. But just a few blocks away, working-class families are huddled in aging apartments, listening to the snowfall while worrying about their next utility bill. The wealth gap in Seattle is no longer just about money. It's about access, stability, and the right to live without constant fear. The crisis in Seattle isn't just economic. It's a crisis of belief. People who once believed that education, hard work, and saving money would lead to a secure life are now confronting a hard truth. None of those guarantees seem to hold up anymore. That disillusionment is spreading. Many feel the system is no longer working for them. And worse, they no longer trust that it ever will. For many, Seattle is no longer the city of the future. It's a place where every meal, every bill, and every due date feels like a survival test. The middle class here is being pushed to the brink, replaced by a society marked by stark inequality and growing instability. 4. Orlando, Florida. Disney glows, but my lights are out. Orlando, Florida, world famous for its iconic theme parks like Disney World and Universal Studios, was once seen as a dream destination, a symbol of American prosperity and joy. But behind the bright lights and cheerful laughter of children at amusement parks lies a colder reality, one that thousands of middle-class families are struggling to endure. The average rent in Orlando has now surpassed $2,000 per month, a figure that's pushed many families to the brink, especially those working in tourism and service industries still reeling from the pandemic and recent economic downturns. According to Zillow's 2024 report, the average rent for a two-bedroom apartment has increased by nearly 38% in just 3 years, making it increasingly difficult for families to hold on to a home. And that's not all. Gasoline prices in Orlando now hover around $5.50 per gallon, more than double what they were 5 years ago. For residents who rely on cars for commuting, shopping, or picking up their kids, this is a cost they simply cannot ignore. The service sector, the backbone of Orlando's local economy, is facing unprecedented instability. Many workers on seasonal or hourly contracts are having their shifts cut. They haven't been officially laid off, but they're also not being called back to work. This means no job security, no health care, and no social benefits. One customer service coordinator at a major resort shared that she now only works 2 days a week and has no medical insurance, even though her job is technically still active. This lack of income stability is forcing families to scrutinize every expense, cutting back on everything non-essential, yet many still can't make ends meet. In low-income areas like Pine Hills and Alafaya Park, shortages of essential items like infant formula, diapers, and hygiene products are becoming widespread. According to Feeding America's 2024 report, around 27% of households in these neighborhoods struggle to access enough basic food. Meanwhile, data from Florida's Energy Regulatory Commission shows that nearly 15% of households in Orlando experienced at least one power shutoff in 2023 due to unpaid utility bills. Adults are frequently forced to choose between paying for electricity or food, choices that jeopardize the health and safety of entire families. Even more troubling is that many of these individuals are not poor on paper. They have jobs and homes, yet they're quietly slipping into financial crisis. They're borrowing money, maxing out high-interest credit cards, and living in a constant state of fear about their financial future. People who once felt confident in their standard of living now find themselves anxious and unsure how they'll keep a roof over their heads. This isn't just a personal issue, it's a growing threat to the wider community. Economic instability and job insecurity mean families can't invest in education or health care, creating a cycle of poverty that's hard to escape. Children raised in these conditions often suffer from poor nutrition and lack educational opportunities, putting an entire generation at risk of being left behind. Despite the theme parks still shining and tourists pouring in, Orlando is quietly witnessing the collapse of the middle-class dream. The city of joy and entertainment is becoming a battleground for survival, especially for the very workers who help make its magic possible, but who see little of the rewards. Orlando today stands as a sobering example of a larger truth in America. Even those who believed in stable jobs and financial security are now at risk of losing everything. And if a city like Orlando, visited by millions of tourists each year, can't protect its middle class, what hope is there for the others that follow? 5. Denver, Colorado. Happiness was a dream, and it's time to wake up. Denver was once known as one of the most livable cities in America. Clean air, breathtaking mountain views, and a high quality of life. It attracted young professionals, well-educated individuals, and families seeking balance between work and personal life. But today, that picture is being redrawn in darker tones as the middle class in Denver struggles harder than ever to maintain stability. Over the past 3 years, rent in Denver has skyrocketed by about 35%. As of now, the average cost of a two-bedroom apartment has reached nearly $2,400 a month, a price point forcing many families to seriously consider whether they can afford to stay. This spike is largely driven by an influx of newcomers, particularly from high-cost states like California and Texas, increasing demand far beyond what the housing supply can accommodate. On top of that, daily living expenses, food, fuel, and utilities have risen sharply, piling more pressure onto middle-class household budgets. According to local food banks and nonprofit organizations, demand for food assistance in Denver has doubled since the start of 2024. Specifically, the number of people visiting local food pantries has jumped from around 5,000 per month to over 10,000. Meanwhile, data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that food prices in Denver rose by an average of 15% in 2023, and fuel costs went up by nearly 20%. These numbers highlight a sobering truth. Even those with steady jobs are now struggling to afford basic meals. One construction engineer living in suburban Aurora, with more than 20 years of experience, shared that despite having a degree and no debt, he still has to take on a part-time retail job at Home Depot just to cover rent and living expenses. His story is far from unique. It reflects a growing crisis where skilled, educated workers are being pushed out of the stable middle-class lifestyle they once earned. Economic inequality in Denver is becoming increasingly visible. One resident jokingly said you can tell someone's social class by the coffee cup they hold. While the wealthy live in upscale condos and order organic groceries through apps, many workers are stuck in aging apartments, trimming every expense and juggling overdue bills. Denver's once-praised community support system is also being stretched to its limits. Nonprofits that used to provide a lifeline now find themselves turning people away due to lack of resources. The rising number of individuals seeking help is simply too much for the current system to handle. Denver used to represent the perfect balance between nature and quality of life. But now, the city is forcing its middle class into a tough choice. Either stay and endure mounting financial stress, or leave the so-called promised land and start over somewhere else. Denver's story is not just about one city. It's a reflection of a broader national trend. Across America, middle-class families with education, jobs, and what should be secure futures are facing growing financial instability and anxiety. If Phoenix, Chicago, Seattle, and Orlando each reveal different sides of the middle-class crisis, then Denver is living proof that even a so-called paradise is not immune to the consequences of economic upheaval, both global and local. And when the middle class, long considered the backbone and stabilizing force of the American economy, is fighting just to stay afloat, the question becomes unavoidable. Is America truly stable? If hardworking people with jobs and decent incomes still can't afford to eat well, buy a home, or cover basic living expenses, then is the current economic and social system really serving its people? Or only a privileged few? The growing insecurity of the middle class is no longer a quiet warning. It's a flashing red light for an economy teetering on the edge. From Phoenix to Denver, from Chicago to Seattle and Orlando, the picture of America's middle class is no longer one of stability and hope. These are not people who failed or didn't try hard enough. They're people caught in the relentless spiral of rising living costs, stagnant wages, and mounting economic pressure. The middle class, once the backbone of America's economy and society, is now increasingly fragile, losing both their sense of security and trust in the system. When even families with steady incomes are forced to scrutinize every dollar, when home ownership becomes a fading dream and renting feels like a constant source of anxiety, we're left with a pressing question. Is America still the land of opportunity it once claimed to be? If the middle class can no longer hold its ground, how can the economy remain sustainable, or society remain fair? This reality is not just a wake-up call for policymakers, but for the entire nation. Concrete and bold solutions are urgently needed to support the middle class, the very people who have long contributed to building this country. Because if this foundation continues to erode, the ripple effects will impact every level of society. We now stand at a crossroads. Do we allow inequality and hardship to spread unchecked? Or do we come together to restore and rebuild the American dream? A place where anyone who works hard truly has a chance at a better life. If you found this video thought-provoking, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future content. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective. Thanks for watching. And remember, what we've shared here is based on research and analysis from multiple viewpoints. Be sure to explore additional sources to gain a fuller, more balanced understanding.